What's up, core reporters, and welcome back to my channel. We need to talk about one of the creators from Love is Blind, who is now going on the record to respond to all of the backlash that he and the rest of the team have received in regards to Tyler's participation. So, for those of you who may not remember, Tyler was the contestant, very controversial contestant, and rightfully so, on season 7, who hid the fact that he had 3 children from his fiance. It's been a while now that participants are allowed to come on the show having children and everything like that. We saw Jessica a couple seasons back, kind of like toy with how she was going to mention this to her match, when she was falling in love with Jimmy. We also saw Nancy be very open. She was a legitimate, not a sperm donor, but like she would donate her eggs. And so she talked about how there were potentially her children out there in the world, but she knew nothing about them. She was very upfront about it and honest. And so Tyler was anything but. In fact, he didn't even mention anything about children until, midway through, after having gotten engaged to Ashley. And a lot of people are enraged by that, myself included. And, also when it comes to the way that he lied about his involvement in the children's lives. So the creator of the show is going on the record in an interview with a Hollywood Reporter to set things straight about that entire ordeal. So let's get into the interview. I do think it's rather interesting to learn from their perspective why they didn't go out there and help Ashley by kind of pushing Tyler to come out with this information, shall we? The Hollywood Reporter said, or asked, Tyler choosing not to disclose that he has children until late in the season has brought up questions about the vetting process. What can you share about vetting participants on Love is Blind? And then creator Chris Colin said, well, a couple of things. One is we have a very rigid vetting process. We have background checks and psychological evaluations. Everyone in the world has a story, and we aren't the police. We don't regurgitate or monitor the conversations, whether they're being filmed or not, by the way. We're not dictating to them what they should talk about, what they shouldn't talk about, if someone has children or doesn't have children. That doesn't preclude them from participating in the process. If someone has had a bad relationship with their mother, or someone's had a certain sexual experience in the past, or someone is in debt, all those things are very common for the vast majority of people. Everyone has stuff. Everyone's lived life, and our job is not to make sure that everyone talks about everything. Our job is to provide them a forum that they use how they wish to see if they can connect with someone and fall in love. And hopefully, in the process, because it contributes to them being in love, be very open and transparent with each other, even through some topics that can be very difficult. It's not our obligation to report to everyone everything that you might find interesting. That's not really our place, because our job is to document that. So he's saying that they're going back to the basics of documentaries, right? So in documentaries, producers are not able to intervene. And so, for example, one of my favorite ever documentary series was MTV's True Life. I used to soak that up, I guess. I don't know, slurp that up. I don't know. And there would be moments where people would be in danger, or I remember producers in one of those behind the scenes clips talks about one of the most touching moments for him was when he was doing an episode about poverty, and there was this single mom living beneath the poverty line. She went grocery shopping, and she tried her very best to just buy the bare bones essential. It was only a couple of items, and she still did not have enough money for that, for herself and for her kids. And the producer was like, listen, I had I had more than enough cash in my pocket to just slip it to her, here, take a 20 and pay for this stuff, but I couldn't, due to the ethics of documentary filmmaking or documentary making. And so I think that that's what this creator Chris is saying, is that things happen. People are, omitting important pieces of information, but we are not, the producers that you see on these messy shows, which I don't know that it's true, because producers have talked, not producers, past contestants have talked about whether it's in television interviews, print interviews, podcasts, or even in their own lawsuits against Love is Blind, they've talked about how the producers try to stir the pot and push them to do X, Y, or Z. But Chris is really, in trying to do damage control here, he's saying, oh, well, we only observe. We do not intervene or anything like that. We don't try to stir up trouble or this or that, like the other guys over there do. We're like a lot more hands off, which I'm not sure is true, because a lot of people, Renee Posh from Love is Blind, I forgot which one. Her name is so New Orleans to me. So I want to say New Orleans, but I don't know if it's really the case. She talks about this, how like she was forced to keep her engagement to like a literal, like what she claims to be a psycho, who was potentially dangerous, or be fined, right? And so they're still in litigation over that issue. So, there is like, a lot of kind of like touchy kind of subjects there that kind of feel like they go against what it is that Chris is currently claiming. And I feel like, when he talks about how everybody has a past, like some people have debt, some people have this, some people have that. It's like, okay, some people have debt, some people have trauma, some people have this, people have that. But that's completely different from hiding children, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But listen, I feel like this is a really interesting ethical question. If someone is hiding children and they're about to marry someone and they're lying about the status of these children, and they're obligated to pay child support for these children, but they won't like admit that they have these children, like, is it fair that producers are not warning the person who is about to marry that person, like, believing them and not, knowing the whole truth? I don't know. I personally don't believe it is, but listen, I'm a very sensitive Sally. Like, this is a whole different ball game, right? That you and I don't really know enough about to truly, truly give like a well-informed opinion. So he did also continue on to say, and I quote, "Number two, I think it's important to say that we don't film 24/7. That's a lot of time and we don't want to. We think it's important that the participants have off-camera time as well as on-camera time, and for them to really get the full picture of who one another is before they get to the altar and make a decision. So we try to help them have all kinds of experiences. There's no way for me to sit here and say I know what people talk about off camera. So what I would say is, really, the question is best posed to Tyler and Ashley. And what do they think and how do they feel? And that's something you'll see at the reunion. Tyler and Ashley don't have an obligation to Joey from Instagram. They just don't. And Joey from Instagram, I'm glad Joey has an opinion, but that doesn't really make any difference to whether Tyler and Ashley have worked through something or not in a way that makes sense to them. So I do believe it's fair. At the end of the day, we could be outraged by, these people and the choices that they were making. But at the end of the day, this is their life. And if they're comfortable with Tyler denying his children on TV, owing child support, and just, in my opinion, potentially traumatizing them, then that's just who they are. And you got to just say, okay, well, good luck to you. Let's see, what happens to you down the line when you when you hold these beliefs and when you believe this way and when you treat children this way. And it is what it is. I feel like some people have made it kind of like a personal mission to try and split this couple up, to really, and it's like, okay, listen, at this point, like, we now know that Ashley knows everything. Everything, like, at first when she was making this decision to marry him, she wasn't privy to all of the stuff that is on social media that has come out since it aired. But we saw her at that reunion. She is not regretful of her decision to marry this man. She's standing beside him or behind him, I don't know. And she's telling us that we're the ones who are in the dark and who do not know the full story. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, all right, girl, go ahead, with your man, and good luck with that situation. And it just is what it is at that point. So, I did also want to kind of flag the fact that the producers, like, listen, like, how do I know Tyler didn't tell her about this off camera? But that's what your showrunners are for. That's what your other producers are for, right? Asking these kinds of questions so that you guys can figure out what you're about to film. I feel like he's kind of acting like they don't ask these people, like, hey, like, what do you want to film about? Like, has anything, like, like daily check-ins to see what they're going to be picking up the cameras for, because it ain't cheap picking up the camera. You got to make sure that you know what you're going to be filming about. So I do believe that this is, these are conversations that they do have, but he's minimizing it, in my opinion, due to the backlash about that situation, So, and listen, can I blame him? No, because this is a really, really huge thing. and this could be something that like really disturbs the future of the show. So it is best for him to downplay, to deny, and to kind of placate people at the end of the day. Now, there was something, it is slightly off topic, but I do know that some of you guys were interested in the kind of like feud between Hannah and what's his face? Nick during their reunion. And he did talk a little bit about that as well. So why don't we go ahead and pull that up? So Hollywood Reporter asked, we also saw in the preview trailer that Hannah accuses Nick of being on the show for disingenuous reasons, which is not a new claim. As the show continues to gain popularity, has it gotten harder to determine who's really there for love versus who's hoping to be internet famous? To which Chris responded, well, you can never know what really is going on in someone's heart, in someone's head. Only the person living it really knows that. I also think just because you're interested in participating in Love is Blind or being on TV, that doesn't mean that you don't also want love. The two things can coexist very peacefully. For us, and sometimes we're wrong, we try to discern whether or not someone's primary motivation is in the big if. If, in the instance that they find someone they fall in love with, are they truly interested in being married? When he said this, I don't know why, but my like mind immediately flashed to Ramses. Was Ramses like, I don't, and I'm not accusing him of like wanting to be a social media influencer or anything like that, but was he really serious about getting married? My vibe is no. And I think it's because he's still like hurt from his prior marriage. But anyway, continuing along. That's the big if, regardless of any other factors. And I think we do a pretty good job of vetting for that. And that's something I care a lot about. I also think people say things in the moment when they're hurt or in the heat of an emotional moment that comes from a place of anger. We'll see for ourselves when the reunion airs tonight. But I certainly have my own perspectives on that. I think that we can all see what went down and form our own opinion about it. So there you go. That's it. That's all that he wants to say about the show. Like they can't control how honest these contestants decide to be. They don't know all the conversations that these people are having off camera, and they really try to screen as much as they can for authenticity in people. And later on in the interview, he did also talk about Leo and Brittany and why they were not chosen. Like it kind of felt like that relationship didn't really have much longer. It was kind of one of those ticking time bombs where it's like there's no way they're gonna get married. And it was really obvious that Brittany, in my opinion, was not at all attracted to Leo. So I just didn't see it either. Like she was leaning back super far. But the gag is that Hannah was another one who was leaning back super far and didn't seem attracted to her match. In fact, I don't think Nick seemed attracted to her either. So it is interesting that they're the ones that made it through. But I digress. Now let's get into the after the altar specials that almost became synonymous with Love is Blind. I certainly would look forward to them every season. And it turns out that Chris and the rest of the Love is Blind team are not going to be bringing those back. Did you guys notice that they stopped doing those after a certain time? Let's get into his explanations as to why, shall we? Quote, it sounds fun to catch up. And that's, so he says, we had them from seasons 1 through 4, the After the Altar specials. Like, are there plans to continue that? Was the question. And Chris said that it was fun to catch up. And that's one of the reasons with the reunion now. It's fun to catch up and see where some of your favorites have been. But when you get into an After the Altar structure, it becomes more like a docuseries. And docuseries, as many people know, are really driven by drama. And to go into an After the Altar with Brett and Tiffany or Zach and Bliss or whoever, where's the drama going to be? It doesn't feel real. It feels like at that point, you're just making something that's kind of for the sake of making it. It's not an exciting idea for a show. It doesn't really feel fulfilling to me as a producer. And I think ultimately, even though people liked it to some extent, I just don't think it's that great. So there you go. He doesn't want to have like the drama. He wants to focus on the love and the optimism. And that is something he talked about in regards to Nick and Vanessa being hosts and people complaining about that. He said, listen, some people want them to be harder on people and to interrogate people, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to share success stories mainly and to like provide hope rather than grilling people and having like zingers and gotcha moments. Okay. So, there you go. Nick and Vanessa are going to be staying for the foreseeable future with Love is Blind, and they're not really interested in doing After the Altar. Here's the thing: when he asks, like, where's the drama going to be? Look at Tiffany and Brett, Zach and Bliss, how happy these people are. It's like, well, the drama has never been with the main couples, it's been with the other people, right? Season one, what was it? It was Amber versus Jessica, Carlton versus everybody, right? Then there was Natalie versus Shane. Then there was Francesca and Damien, and then Giannina was a confrontation, like trying to figure out what that, like, I would like to see what, like, you know what I mean? I would love to see what would go down between Ramses and Marissa, Hannah and Nick, like all this stuff, like outside of that, like happy, like couple situation. And then I remember there was Brennan versus who's that guy? Cole, and just all that stuff. Like, I really like it. I'm disappointed they're not bringing back. In fact, I think that there should be a spin-off for Love is Blind for, either the not married people, well, a mixture of people who did get married and people who did not, like how all of that is going. I would love to see, for example, when they brought back Jessica for their reunion, like it was cool seeing her and her husband and her baby. Like, I would have loved to see more of that. I know she wasn't married to someone from the show, but like she is still like an iconic, one of the first iconic characters of the show, in the most meme-worthy in the first season to come out. And I would certainly love to follow her and her journey. Like, she seems to have built a very beautiful life for herself. Amber and Barnett are expecting a baby. Lauren and Cameron are opening up about fertility issues. Like, there's just so much to explore that, like, I don't think necessarily has to revolve around drama. Of course, we still need it for TV, and that can come, in the form of the people who are still in the dating market, like in the dating trenches, right? But listen, what do I know? I'm just a girl with a microphone who talks a little too damn much. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below, you guys. And as usual, we will chat. Do you think that like what he's saying like makes sense? Like, are you taking him and the rest of the Love is Blind producers off the hook for the Tyler situation? Or do you think that he is deflecting and shirking responsibility? And how do you feel about Love is Blind After the Altar being discontinued? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.